The year 1970. The subject, the fate of James Bond. Producers Albert R. Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman must decide on a new direction for 007.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. James Bond.
Diamonds are forever. They are all I need to please me. They can stimulate and tease me.
When actor George Lazenby departs from the role as Bond, the filmmakers are faced with a clean slate.
The fact is that nobody wanted to take a chance that we were hurting the franchise, and the mutual decision on everybody's part was to make a change.
The question is, what type of change? Popular opinion suggests the next film needs to return to the tone and structure of Goldfinger, the first Bond movie to achieve blockbuster status. The filmmakers enlist veteran Bond writer Richard Maybaum to write the new script, and Goldfinger's director Guy Hamilton to direct.
I was asked to do Diamonds, and it was a real kick because I'd felt that I'd been away from it long enough to have varying viewpoints, and I think I'd like to push it a little bit more this way and that.
Like Fleming's novel, much of the action takes place in and around Las Vegas, but the script features a new villain, Goldfinger's twin brother. It is decided Maybaum's script needs a major overhaul. It is a time of social upheaval. Many suggest Bond's British clubland values are passé.
I'd say it was a 30-year-old fiend indifferently blended, sir, with an overdose of Bombois.
They believe 007 should become more American.
Adam West was on a publicity tour in London, and he did come to the house, and of course he was under contract playing Batman. I guess you might say that they had the conversation. He was considered.
The Americanization of Bond continues.
We went to the States, Guy and Cubby and I and Harry to test for new Bonds.
Cubby found this very good American actor by the name of John Gavin, and he was actually signed to play Bond.
John Gavin is best known for his role in Hitchcock's Psycho.
So it was decided to do the whole film in Hollywood.
We actually took stage space at Universal Studios, set up shop there.
Having dropped the idea of Goldfinger's twin brother as the villain, the filmmakers now search for a new angle. The solution comes to co-producer Cubby Broccoli in a dream.
One morning, he woke and he said, "I've had the most fabulous dream. It was about Howard Hughes." He said, "I thought I was outside the penthouse window, and he had his back to me. And I was knocking on the window, and I was saying, 'Sam.' That was the nickname that his close friends called him. 'Sam.' And when he turned around, it wasn't Howard Hughes at all. It was a total stranger." He said, "And that's what I've been looking for, this fellow who's kept captive in this penthouse, and everything below is still going on as though he exists."
A new writer is brought in to develop the idea.
I got a call from my agent saying, "How would you like to write a James Bond movie?" I thought he was joking. I mean, this monstrous joke. Cubby Broccoli was saying, "I need a writer to rewrite this script. I want him to be young. I'd like him to be American, but he has to have a command of the British idiom." He's a perfect writer for this because he writes larger than life and he writes with attitude. Well, I was like a kid in a candy store. I couldn't believe that I was there as the writer of a Bond movie.
And he and I got on like a house on fire immediately.
Before Mankiewicz finishes his draft, another big event happens. On February the 9th, 1971, Los Angeles is rocked by the magnitude 6.5 San Fernando earthquake.
Suddenly the whole building leaned 8 feet at that height, you see.
And that thing went like that, a bum, bada bum, bada bum, bada bum, frightened the hell out of them. So they came running up to my house. I lived on Beaumont Drive in Beverly Hills, and they had to stay there because they were so shooken up.
Another shake-up follows when United Artists suggests a change of course.
United Artists were gung-ho to get Sean back, but Harry and Cubby felt they really didn't want to beg a reluctant actor to act.
I had a brilliant sketch artist who was working for me, Tom Wright. And if you look at his storyboards, I mean, it's always Sean in them.
And so there was a big conference in Cubby's house in Bev Hills, and David Picker, who was president of the United Artists at that time, flew in from New York.
He said, Sean, is going to cost you $2 million. That money you can recoup from Edie money.
There was a levy here called the Edie levy.
For every penny taken at the box office, something like a quarter of it, a farthing, was returned directly to the producers.
And so Sean isn't going to cost you anything. And so then it was decided to use Sean.
Broccoli and Saltzman asked me to come from Paris to London to talk to Sean, to give him the offer.
I had to take a week to make the decision myself, whether I would do it again.
And lo and behold, Sean said yes, he would come back.
Of course, the producers already have an actor signed to play James Bond.
If Sean had not come back, John Gavin was going to play him.
And they called and said, look, we've got Sean.
Gavin graciously departs from the picture, with Cubby Broccoli insisting that his contract be paid in full. He continues acting and from 1981 to 1986 serves as U.S. ambassador to Mexico. Sean Connery, meanwhile, negotiates a record sum for his return.
They had given him, I guess, a deal he couldn't refuse.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
He got the unheard of sum of, I think, $1,200,000 for the film, which in 1970 was just extraordinary.
Sean gave all that money away, and it was $1.25 million.
He contributed his fee to the Scottish Educational Trust Fund.
I started 3 years ago a trust in Scotland, Scottish International Education Trust.
Young Scottish artists, writers, painters, who could get the money if they stayed in Scotland.
With this, I could launch the trust with so much money that there could never be an excuse for it not succeeding.
United Artists offers additional inducements beyond the record-breaking salary.
He also got the right to make 2 films.
We made a 2-picture deal with Sean.
With also development money to prepare them during this period, which I'm doing now.
Ultimately, only 1 film is made under the arrangement, The Offense.
Details are not important. What's important is he did 1 more movie.
And once back, I must say, he was the real pro. Everything went wonderfully well.
With Connery back in the picture, the production shifts gears. It is no longer going to be an American Bond. Connery, meanwhile, turns his attention to the script.
I never met Sean until we were in Las Vegas about 2 weeks before, and I had the most wonderful meeting with him. He loved the script.
I think is probably the best one they've had, certainly construction-wise, for a beginning, a middle, and an end of a story. It's very good. It's a very good script.
Most of the notes he had were about other characters' dialogue or other characters' bits of business. It was the least self-centered script meeting I'd ever had with an actor, much less a star.
The other roles are soon filled. Jill St. John takes the part of jewel smuggler Tiffany Case.
The script was sent to me by Cubby Broccoli, and I loved it, and who would not want to be in a Bond film?
Charles Gray, who plays Henderson in You Only Live Twice.
Thank you.
I'm glad we got it right.
Takes on the role of Ernst Stavro Blofeld, the 3rd actor to play the part in as many films.
I liked him a lot, and I was trying to trade chess lessons for bridge lessons, and neither one of us ended up learning to do the other's game very well.
Lana Wood joins the cast on a recommendation from the film's writer.
Tom Mankiewicz, who is a dear friend of mine, said that he was doing this film, and he was speaking with Cubby Broccoli, and he said, I've got the perfect girl to play Plenty O'Toole.
Hi, I'm Plenty.
But of course you are.
As a teenager, I used to read all the Ian Fleming books, and I love that. That was sort of my fantasy.
Another pivotal role is filled with an offbeat choice, Jimmy Dean.
I was working at the Desert Inn, and Cubby Broccoli came in and saw me doing my regular act out there and said, that's the guy I want to play Willard White.
Jimmy Dean, the grand old Opry star.
I had the #1 record in England in 1961, a thing I wrote and recorded called Big Bad John.
Jimmy Dean, the sausage king.
Whatever melts your butter suits me.
thank God for the sausage business. Every day in my life is Groundhog Day. Did you know that?
For Jimmy Dean, playing Willard White proves to be a risky venture.
Willard White was really basically Howard Hughes. And I'm working for Howard Hughes at the Desert Inn.
It was definitely Howard Hughes, and it was Howard Hughes who at the time had taken over the Desert Inn in Las Vegas and was living up there, but nobody had seen him.
They sent Howard Hughes the first 16mm print of every James Bond movie. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it have been cute if Howard Hughes had seen that movie and said, that sapsucker's playing me, and I don't like the way he's doing it.
Tell him he's fired.
That would have cost me a pot full of money.
Another musician joins the cast as one of Blofeld's homicidal henchmen.
Well, I worked with Burt Bacharach. I recorded with Sonny and Cher. I did the Phil Spector records and the Righteous Brothers, Lost That Love and Feeling. I'm on that. And, but that really wasn't my main thing. Our main thing was jazz.
He was a jazz musician, and I think it was his first acting job.
He was a bass fiddle player with Thelonious Monk.
I worked with Thelonious Monk. One night, Guy Hamilton came into Shelley's Manhole in L.A.
And Guy, who was a jazz fan, seen Thelonious Monk. There was Potter playing, and he went, that's one of the guys.
So I did a screen test with Paul Williams, playing the part of Mr. Wint. He wrote a lot of songs like We've Only Just Begun, it's one of his songs, but he wrote a ton of songs.
When Paul Williams is unable to come to terms with the producers, Bruce Glover lands the role of Mr. Wint.
First, they thought I was a little too normal looking because they were looking for Sidney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre. Now, I can do Peter Lorre in my head, but I don't look like Peter Lorre. They wanted weird physical types.
I didn't act like anything. I just acted like myself.
So when I got on the set, I looked at Potter and I thought, so we're gay.
Well, the audience has the inside information, so you don't need to act like you're gay. If they know you are, then that's all that's necessary.
A lot of my character was based on just looking at Potter and enjoying him. Just in looking at him was an enjoyable experience. And I thought, but he's mine. He's mine. He's my toy. And now I've got like this possessive kind of thing.
They're both aboard. I must say, Miss Kay seems quite attractive. For a lady.
That jealousy came up because I had, in fact, the sense of Potter being my toy.
As the start date nears, the crew finds the Las Vegas location not so much a challenge as a temptation.
We were living in Las Vegas for about 6 weeks. The whole art department were living around the pool. And they were all gamblers, and nobody went to bed.
But back then, it was just the hard-nosed gambling town. I mean, that was it.
I think we all lost our money.
They gambled, you know, all the way through the night.
You can go into breeze into a casino and not know whether it's night or day. There are no clocks and no windows.
Producer Cubby Broccoli and his wife Dana become involved in a real-life mystery.
His room was broken into while they were asleep and his wife's jewelry stolen, which was really frightening, right in the hotel.
I'd heard about these robberies where they come in and spray chloroform or something and the people sleep and they take the jewelry. Amazing. I was in the suite next door.
Filming begins April the 5th, 1971, with the desert outside Las Vegas substituting for South Africa.
The first day of shooting in Las Vegas, we're going to shoot that scene with the scorpions where Potter pretends to have a toothache. And I said, oh, would you look at his thing? And he starts to look, and he's saying, open, open. He opens up his mouth, and when his mouth is open, I reach around and I jam the scorpion into his mouth.
They thought that was too shocking.
The following week, Sean Connery shoots his first scene, the car chase down the Vegas Strip.
They said, whatever you want, Guy. And I said, well, I've heard that before. I don't really believe it. Let's try and for size. Could you close downtown Vegas for 5 nights?
Closing down the Strip is no trouble for Cubby Broccoli, who has friends in high places.
Howard used to occupy that whole top floor of the Desert Inn.
They called him the Penthouse. Word has come down from the Penthouse that Cubby Broccoli can use anything in any of his hotels or anything else that he might need.
Filming the car chase continues through mid-April, except for one stunt, which takes months to complete.
Originally, we did that sequence in the studio, and I was actually there in the studio in Los Angeles.
The initial shoot at Universal goes well, but Hamilton still needs shots of the car exiting the alley in Las Vegas.
Cubby said, cool it, I'll have a second unit and they will get the shot for you.
A second unit films a stunt in June. The footage, unfortunately, includes Las Vegas street crowds, police, and other problems. A reshoot is scheduled.
I said, terrific, Cubby, you can tell them to do it again.
They redid it later.
The American stuntmen, unfortunately, cannot perform the stunt. A French team is called in, but they do the stunt on the opposite set of wheels.
But they did it the wrong way round.
The driving seat is down, the French guy does it the other way down, the driving. I said, I don't, so long as they're on two wheels, it's all the same to me, wheelie up or wheelie down.
That attitude doesn't last when the dailies arrive.
To this day, every time I see it, my heart goes in my mouth. If you look at it, it's down on one side, but no way could it have turned on the other side.
Eventually, an innovative solution is found.
There's only one answer.
When we did the close-ups, we were on a soundstage, but the car still went like this.
And in the middle there, we slipped this shot of the car.
At the end of April, Connery begins filming inside the Riviera Hotel and Casino.
He was just an incredible presence, which he still is. I did the entire scene on an Apple box because I was not tall enough. So that was always a lot of fun because Sean was so gigantic, and here I was even with heels, not quite matching up.
May the 1st finds the crew at the John Manville gypsum plant, which becomes White Tektronix in the film.
The moon buggy was not 100% based on the actual lunar vehicle. Guy wanted it to look grotesque with these flailing arms and so on, mechanical arms. And I decided to use the actual moon buggy wheels, which were conical. What happened was that the ground was so rough and the weight of the actual moon buggy was so much that they kept breaking.
The following week, Lana Wood takes a dip in the pool. Though stuntwoman Patty Elder does part of the fall, Lana Wood finishes it off for the close shot.
I started thinking about the fact that I was going to be jumping into a pool, basically nude. And then everybody was running around saying, oh, you don't have to be worried because we're going to be shooting this in the middle of the night. Who will be up then? And I thought, yeah, that's right. I mean, who's going to be up? It's Las Vegas. The whole world is up in the middle of the night, and they're all gathered around the windows looking at the pool area.
Exceptionally fine shot.
I didn't know there was a pool down there.
In mid-May, the Bond company arrives at an unusual home in Palm Springs.
The house was built out of the rock itself. And the rock that I start out when you first see me on was actually a real rock there in the house that the house was built around.
And it was absolutely right for the film. It was a reinforced concrete structure, very modern and fabulous. And I said, you know, this is as though I designed it.
I get a lot of ideas from television. I saw some of these girls for the Olympics doing their mat work, you know, where they do these somersaults. It's beautiful to watch. If one of those girls were ever to do some flips and come and kick you in the teeth with her feet, I mean, you wouldn't stand a chance.
I showed him different things that I felt that would be appropriate for fighting, and a kick and a turn on the floor. That is mine. I must say, that's mine. I like that one.
Stuntwoman Donna Garrett is originally signed to play Bambi, but does not end up in the role.
Well, hi there. I'm Bambi.
Lola Larson replaces Garrett.
I'm Bambi. She was an Olympic gymnast star, very young, very quiet. I think this was her first, too. But she did a good job.
Jimmy Dean arrives on the set to film his first scenes, but misses out on the action.
Bambi and Thumper. More people ask me about them. I never saw them. When we arrived on the set, they had already done their thing and they had left, so I never saw them.
Dean enjoys working with Sean Connery.
He was always fun for me to be around. I had a good time with him. He called me the noisy American.
At the end of May, the unit travels further afield to an oil rig off the coast of Oceanside, California.
We had problems to find the right oil rig because it had to be disused and had to be safe because we had fire effects and explosions and all that.
For the cast, getting to the rig is an adventure in itself.
Every day we'd go in a helicopter and fly 15 minutes out to this oil rig.
One of the helicopter pilots, because I wasn't in the scene, said, "Jimmy, you want to go up and go for a ride?" He scared the hell out of me. I mean, they went so close to that tower. It was unbelievable.
Filming the pyrotechnics on the oil rig almost goes awry.
Guy had been a very famous assistant director, first assistant director, and had been for John Huston and other people. Guy decided to have one last dry run-through just to make sure everything was fine before we shot. And the assistant director misunderstood. And when Guy yelled action, for the run-through, explosions started happening all over the place. And thank God, a head helicopter pilot, a wonderful man named Jim Gavin, he went, "Holy Jesus, what's happening down there?" And he started rolling the cameras. And a lot of the explosions from the air were off that take. And Guy stood on that oil rig, and he was apoplectic, but he was so calm, and that was Guy. I mean, Guy never raised his voice. And the assistant director said, "I'm so sorry, Guy." And Guy said, "I'll handle it." And he said, "Guy, I'll get the people." He said, "I'll handle it." He said, "Guy, I don't think you understand the pressure on the thing and so on of being an assistant director." He said, "I was the assistant director on the African Queen. I was the assistant director on the whatever he started doing with." He said, "And I'll handle it."
In June, the crew returns to Pinewood to film on Ken Adams' elegant sets. First up are scenes in Blofeld's penthouse.
I wanted to give the feeling of a penthouse belonging to one of the wealthiest men in the world, as well as a man who had been a brilliant designer and brilliant engineer.
The little sequence in the elevator, there were some German stainless steel tiles, which we'd seen the pattern of them. I remember that it was a big schlep trying to get them back into the country, but we did. And to me, that elevator would always live as one of the masterpieces of one of Ken's designs.
Another set makes an impression of a different sort on the crew.
Leslie Hillman had come up with the idea of using mashed potatoes in tons to create this mud. And what he didn't realize that after 24 hours, these mashed potatoes started smelling.
I can't tell you, there's this awful stink. Oh.
Get him out, and you go quick.
It was unbearable.
London-based American actor Shane Rimmer, a veteran of You Only Live Twice, reports for work at Pinewood on June the 30th.
It was kind of funny. I mean, it was Connery, and I'd never met him. I didn't realize quite how awesome the man is. My first look of him is coming rather briskly down this hallway, and I just went rigid. I mean, this phenomenon coming towards me, because he is. He sends out an awful lot of voltage.
To get away from the grind of filming, Connery indulges his passion, golf.
Sean Connery gave me some instructions on how to play golf, and very good instructions, by the way.
Sean plays a lot more golf than James Bond does.
It was more or less in the contract that we could play golf once a week.
He did more for my golf game than any pro that I ever went to. When I finished doing Diamonds Are Forever, I was hitting my irons the best I had ever hit them.
At the end of July, a fight is filmed in an unusual location, an elevator.
We got to have a fight in a Bond movie. And basically, there's no more boring than a couple of blokes swinging at each other. And I began to think about having a fight in this elevator because it would be fun. They'd break the glass, so you could shatter the whole thing, and obviously as it came up to a floor, your head would be chopped off. And put the two largest guys I can think of in a small elevator. And they would love to swing at each other, but every time they moved back, oh, my elbow's gone through this. Bob Simmons, who was our stunt gaffer, he loved the idea.
Sean and me, we both worked the fight out ourselves, because some of Bob's ideas were good, but we thought we could improve on the ideas. And you approved of what we were doing, so that was the main thing. And I worked with Sean before. I taught Sean judo. To see this small lift with Sean, both and I, 6'2" and 220 pounds, it was quite something. And I thought that's a brilliant idea, you know. And I remember Sean saying, look, what are they going to do next? Have a fight in a telephone box?
And most stuntmen have a healthy respect for Sean because he believes, and this is what makes Sean a wonderful Bond, when he hits, he means it. He goes in there and I'm going to hit
I remember it well.
But he's big because occasionally he gets one back because he forgot the routine because he never learnt it in the first place. And Sean gets thumped and he never complains.
In early August, the final fight is filmed not at sea, but on a stage at Pinewood Studios. Actors Bruce Glover and Putter Smith work closely with the stunt team led by Bob Simmons. Each move is choreographed so that the actors can do as much of the stunt work as possible. Putter Smith even has his hands lit on fire, but it is stuntman George Leach who goes up in flames. For the final flip, Connery is assisted by a mini trampoline to launch stuntman Jerry Crampton in the air. From uncertain beginnings and shaky starts, Diamonds Are Forever re-establishes 007 as the classic British secret agent. On Friday the 13th of August, 1971, Sean Connery closes the lid on his career as the star of Eon Productions' James Bond series.
And we finished at 4 o'clock on the last day of his contract. You know, everybody was very happy.
I think everybody kind of knew that he wasn't coming back, that this was his swan song.
I came back for the one, that was the understanding.
He was adorable to me. It was a pleasure to kiss him. He's a fabulous person and a marvelous actor.
Handsome, kind, charming, with these big magnetic eyes that had a bit of irony to them.
The first and the best, I think. He's A, the sexiest thing on two legs. B, he looks terrific. C, he's got such a wicked twinkle. D, he's a very good actor. And he's very virile.
He was a gentleman. He was very rough, like a diamond, rough edges, but down to earth, very giving as an actor.
Mr. Osato believes in a healthy chest.
He was fantastic. And I must say he was a very, very good colleague. He was very, very friendly, very helpful.
He's a very good pal to have as your leading man, you know. To be his co-star is to feel almost protected, and Sean was just wonderful. He was James Bond to me.
Deep breath. All right, here we go.
Diamonds are forever. They are all I need to please me. They can stimulate and tease me. They won't leave in the night. I've no fear that they might desert me.